Good morning. I thought you might find it interesting, or some of you might find it interesting, to see some of the burning tools that I use and tips and how I make them. First, I'd like to show you this really interesting set from Keras. I can't find any information about it. It was made in Colombia. I got it at a garage sale, and it came with an amazing array of different style tips and wires. I don't know if you can see all those. I even actually have given some of them away, so there were more. It's a really interesting, cheap system. The unit itself is operated by just placing pins in the low, medium, and high. Has a kind of a crummy pen. It gets hot pretty quick. So by putting it in low and in, say we'll do 4, so at this tip, as you can see, on low and 4, it hardly makes a mark. Now if I was to move it to medium and leave it on 4, I think you'll see the tip will glow red hot here shortly. And it gets pretty hot in a hurry. So that's an interesting one. Inside, its works are very, very minimal. The connections are just made with 2 copper pieces that you put this pin in, and it goes in between the 2 copper pieces to make the connection. That's how it makes a connection. It's pretty basic. Next, I'd like to show you this guy here. Now this was a soldering station made by American Beauty. I got it at an auction. It's a soldering station that had 2 leads. So instead of the 2 leads, I put in the 1 RCA connector, single RCA connector. Right now I have it connected to the Burnmaster pen with the original cord. It's a heavy duty cord. I can again show you what happens if it has just a dial. I turn it on, and this is one of my homemade tips. Now that's not even halfway up. If I turn it up a little bit more, you'll see how hot it can get. It can get pretty darn hot. You might even weld with this thing. So that's a soldering station I got very inexpensively at auction. The tool I use the most is the Burnmaster. That's this guy here. It has 2 pens. I'm not sure where I got this pen. It was from a company that's gone out of business now, I think. It will take the tips that come with the Burnmaster. You simply plug in, and away you go. Turn it on. This one burns like, got it on pretty low. No, maybe I haven't got it on at all here. There, had it on the wrong one. No. Turn it up a little bit more. These nibs take a little bit more heat. That's that one. Next, plugged into my Master Carver Burn Master is a pen made by Peter Child in England. I thought it looked like a kind of interesting one I'd like to try, so I didn't want to buy his whole system. It comes with this nib. I don't know if you can see it or not. That's their standard one. It's very fine, very fine. It's hard for me to control because I shake so much. So if you turn it down, way down, I don't know if you can see the very fine lines. Again, this one will get smoking hot if I turn it up. So that's a Peter Child from England. When I started burning with a homemade pen and a transformer that I took apart and rewired. Here's an example of some of the work that I was doing in those days with a homemade pen and a homemade burner. This is a canvasback female. I also would like to mention that I didn't really care for the how stiff the cords were from the Burn Master. They were good if I was doing heavy burning and I didn't need fine control, but for me, my hands aren't very steady. So I soon discovered that I could replace them with some silicone wire that I got off Amazon, and I got the connectors as well. So I made these pens, I changed all my pens over when I'm doing fine work to this system. Oh, I'll just plug it back in here. So this allows me a lot more flexibility with the cord. The cord doesn't hang up. It really is a pleasure to use these. If I have the right one on here, better turn it on. There we go. As you can see, I'm a little shaky, and holding this by hand isn't the best thing, but that's how that works with these silicone wires. Okay, I'd like to just talk a little bit about some of my homemade burners. There's lots of, or nibs, there's lots of different things you can do to make your own. This sort here is my favorite. It's kind of just pounded flat and then it's sharpened on the edge. I can show you how to make that one in a second here. I have lots of other ones. I made these ones on the right hand side here. These are all ones I've made. These are the tips that come with the Burn Master set. I don't think that one is, but most of those are. If you're interested in making your own, this is the wire that I use. Now this is 22 gauge, and I use 20. 22 is finer than 20. Sorry, the smaller the number, the bigger the wire. So 20 gauge is bigger than 22 gauge. So in order to make a tip for my interchangeable, I just cut a piece of wire. It's nichrome wire. I'll bend it, and it's really not critical. You can do it, you can adjust it later. I like to bend, I like mine sort of almost touching and kind of like that. Next, pound this in flat. So now I'm looking more like this. You can see that. Can you see that? Very flat. I would then file the corners, file these edges so that I have almost a razor sharp edge that I can do a very fine line with. I don't think you can tell, but I do get that out like a knife edge. And we'll put it into this pan. This is a Burnmaster original pan. So I just nip off both of the ends so that they're about equal, even. I need the pens to be relatively short so they're close to my hand. So it looks like I used a little too much wire here. So this simply just go into the receiving end here. Do them back up with a screwdriver. And sometimes I'll double the end over if I'm using the 22 gauge wire because it's a little finer, so sometimes I'll double it over like that so that there's more contact for the screws when it goes in. And then plug it in, turn it on. And I like them to be bent a little bit. They're easy to bend when they're hot, or easier to bend when they're hot. So I like mine about 22 degrees or something like that. I don't know if you can see how that is. And if I turn it down, I can get a nice fine line here, I think. Oh, too hot still. Yeah, so there, can do that. I can shade with these. I like to shade with them. Of course, you know, if you go back over, you don't have to burn dark the first time. You can go back over the area you want darker. Every time you go over it, it gets darker. And of course, you could turn it up if you wanted to rush the process. We'll turn it up a little bit here. The higher you go, the harder it is to shade light. So it's often easier and better if you start lower and then go back over it. Or if you go slower, slower will also go darker. So I think that's about it for what I was hoping to show you this morning. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to call me or email me, email me or leave a message on the bottom of the video. Be happy to answer any of your questions. And that's it for Pete Blair, AKA the Mad Scientist. Thanks for watching. I just did want to add, this is a tip that you can make. If anybody's interested, I could show you how to make it. It's for doing a basket weave pattern. So I don't know if you can see it. It's just wrapped around a nail, some of the nichrome wire, and it's applied like, oh, turn it up a little bit more. It's applied like this. And then this way. Then this way. Makes an interesting pattern. Try and do a little bit more here, a little hotter. I usually have a little fan blowing so I'm not breathing this smoke. Don't get too alarmed about me breathing this smoke, because I don't normally have this much smoke. If I do, I have a little fan that blows it away from me. So there's that pattern. It can be very attractive as a background or as a filler. When I started making things and selling them, I wanted to sign my work, but sometimes I didn't make anything that I felt worth signing. So for the items that I make, if I make a bunch of bulk items or something, I wanted to have a logo. So I did a kind of a cross with a P and a B on it. Don't know if you can see that very well. I sent this into a manufacturer in the US who made it for me. I tried to make them myself, but it was a little bit crude. It takes quite a long time. It just goes into an old soldering gun handle, and then I can kind of just burn my symbol. So if I'm doing a lot of pieces, well, it's pretty hard to do it one-handed here, but that's the idea. If I do it down here, probably can be more successful. Takes a long time to heat up, but if you're doing 100 of them or more than a few, it's easier than drawing this by hand. So it's not a bad idea for a way for you to sign something. You come up with something. This was a P and a B, so for my initials, Pete Blair. That was the whole idea, was PB, something easy. Looks a little bit like a dragonfly. I was meaning to mention that I read somewhere if you're in a pinch and you don't have a tip for your burner, you can actually use a paper clip. So I thought I'd just show you what I tried. In this instance, I'm not going to be too fancy, but you could form this any way you want, right? So that's just a regular paper clip. Of course, this is my burn master again. Now, if I wanted, I could hammer that flat. I could do whatever I wanted with that. Make it into a finer edge there. You could file that or do whatever else you want with that. And so, turn it on. As you can see, I'm using the heavy-duty cord here on this one. And I guess I got to crank it up. And as you can see, it would work. Now, I don't know how good it is or bad it is for your tool, for your burner, but I don't think if you were not overloading it like that, wasn't so red, I don't think it would hurt anything. Luckily, the Burn Master does have a reset button, so it does, if it does get abused and it gets overloaded, it'll shut itself off. So there you go, nichrome wire, just a good old paper clip, whatever you need to do. Sometimes you can just use what you have on hand. I wouldn't recommend it, but whatever, it will work.